Walk, walk. There are so many things going on around. You must take heed. It's been written and prophesied about, so you must believe. Not everything that glitters is gold. Pay attention as it's been told. Join us every Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, with Brother Yusuf as he tackles and breaks down current events, current news, and politics, and the Islamic Ummah. Please join us, streaming on all major platforms. Channel Sunnahfollowers. Week as far as updates, things happening, especially this week as far as the touring in the Middle East region with President Donald Trump. Okay, now there are many questions that people have, went ahead and sent in major questions, and I was doing a little bit of research so I could ask you because it was interesting. Now, one of the questions that they happened to ask, and I wanted to get your insight, which we all appreciate here. We know with this Mid-East tour that President Trump has taken part in, which involves Qatar, in this basic area of, trying to broker deals and whatnot as far as deals with tech, and many social issues that's going on in that region at this moment. A lot of people have been tuned in to want to know like what's going on in the background, not of this big trip, especially in this region that's so important to us. One of the questions that somebody posed was, has Trump turned his back on Israel and now supports Palestinians? And with an added addition to that, knowing the background with the Israeli president, knowing that there are specific reasons that Trump may be taking care of his business in the background, since we all know that Israel wants a part and a shoe and an openness in all of the social and political situations that are back there. Can you go ahead and share your insight a little bit more and let the people know more so the ties of why President Donald Trump would, go on the side and take care of the business, and what his particular insights and his reasonings for keeping Israeli out of the picture at this point?
Yeah, very good question. And all praise be to Allah, because I pretty much anticipated a question kind of similar to that and had already pretty much prepared a way of explaining that. And again, the world is a stage, the world is theater. Let's turn the clock back to, I believe it was 2017, when he was in office the first time. And he went there and he visited the region. And we saw all the leaders, including himself, and they placed their hands on that glowing orb, this Masonic, satanic, whatever you want to call it, type of ritual that went on there. And of course, the whole staging of the election with Biden, all that stuff was scripted. Politics is pro wrestling, as I talked about months ago. And we have to understand, when someone appears to be an enemy or at odds on camera, in the end of the day, it's all a script. It's all food for the masses. It's going to create this illusion, this artificial version of reality. What's happening basically is, again, pacification of the region. We went through that and we talked about Agenda 2030 and highlighted how every single one of these Gulf states has an Agenda 2030. And I explained in detail in that lecture a few weeks ago exactly what Agenda 2030 was. And it was not for the best interest of humanity. We are seeing, like I said, some cycles of that project are way ahead of schedule. Some cycles of that project are way behind. But nonetheless, it is going to proceed. We're also seeing a major global shift in the interests of the elites. If you go back to the past, World War II, World War I, from that era all the way to the Cold War, to Vietnam, it was the military-industrial complex that had the power. War was a driving force. War was a means of control. And war was billions and billions of dollars. But as you see now, all that stuff is transitioning into the service economy, into tech, into all this AI, all these new things, the Internet of Things, if you will, as highlighted Agenda 2030. And what's going on with Israel and its enemies in the region are not conducive to these big interests that are present now in all of our lives, just about every aspect of them. They want a stable region. The best way to have a stable region is to do exactly what the Arab leaders are doing. They're making Israel basically and on good terms, so to speak, good ties, if you will. Now, the Gaza thing, you see Trump talking about a Palestinian state. Netanyahu appears to oppose this. We did a presentation on this here a few months ago of Trump's vision for that Palestinian state. We saw that AI generated video where you saw the casinos, you saw the gambling, you saw the worship of money. The Trump statue is the golden calf, symbolic of Moses in the time there with the Hebrews at the time. We're honoring this golden calf. We saw all that idolatry, all that symbolism. That was the vision, obviously, for Gaza. And that's the vision for Palestine, is basically what you see in Dubai, what you see in Qatar, and what you see in the rest of these, puppet states. It is a secularization, of the region. And Donald Trump came out and he made the announcement also about Syria and removing the sanctions. Anyone who's familiar with me, I talked about all the Muslims in social media that were, alhamdulillah, Bashar is gone. They were celebrating all this. That's the two things are going to happen. I mean, either Syria is going to become another phony ISIS type terrorist state, and they'll use that as justification to go in. Or the more likely scenario, which is what we're seeing playing out now, is a secularization and a globalization of Syria. Syria being absorbed. Syria was not part of this global system. They weren't part of the banking. They didn't have the McDonald's, the Subways, the KFCs, all the Western poisons and products and all the services. They were separate from that. And now you're going to see Syria becoming more and more like its neighbors, more and more secular, more and more global, more and more, commercial. And that's the blueprint for the region. And that's what we're seeing now. It's unfolding. And it's you can say that's a good thing in this context. That's the only silver lining you can find, is it is a more peaceful solution. But it's also going to be the death of Islam as an institution in that part of the world. Islam will be reduced, and the plan is to reduce Islam to what you see with Christianity. Christianity is just simply something that, hey, I'm a Christian. What else more is that? It's nothing of value. It's been completely diminished and has lost all sense of its soul, of its essence, of its purpose. And you're going to see Muslims out at nightclubs and women half naked and men with tattoos and drinking alcohol. This is probably no more than 20 years. And I'm a Muslim, by the way. And it's like just that, it's like saying your name, to someone. It's not going to be anything that reflects in your character or your actions and your loving of the halal and hating of the haram. And then we're going to see this progress. And that's all that we are seeing over the weekend. You notice the Emirati, when he went to Emirates, they had the women out there, they had the long hair, and they were twirling the hair, like back and forth in this Emirati ritual dance. I mean, is this Islamic? I mean, to have women with their hair uncovered, shaking their hair for a foreign man or king. I mean, is this something the Prophet ﷺ ever had done for him? Is this something that Umar would have permitted? Is this something that was done for Ali or Abu Bakr? I mean, obviously, no. And again, it's a joke. And people are praising this, obviously. They're saying, oh, he's turned on Israel. None of these things are true. Not by any means. Mission is going along according to plan. The Agenda 2030 I talked about is being displayed in real time. You still see those projects, which Trump supports. The Lime, the Neom, the Macabre in Riyadh, that cube-like structure, this demonic core in its virtual reality world. We're seeing all that stuff going right ahead with schedule. The green agenda, the climate change agenda, the sustainable development, the tracking, the digital money. It's all there. And just bringing in the Middle East into the party,
Yes.
absorbing it.
I wanted to going into that, like you just said, we're we're tuning in, we're going into the money. Now, one thing that I did read about is the reason for Donald Trump going ahead and trying to do a little, you know, how could I say this? Basically brokering his own deals. We know that the president has his background in business, right?
Mm.
And because of that, he understands the technicalities in the background of doing business. But I found it very interesting that he went ahead and his sole purpose in trying to broker this deal was, number one, stopping the bombing of Yemen for an exchange. Why?
Mm.
Because to try to cease the attacks of the ships that are on the Red Sea without Israel's knowledge, So this is the information that is coming out or whatnot. And right now we don't see Israel is too happy about that. But being that you are tying in the agenda that is out, the agenda of the president, especially after this big tour, and all that it entailed in the background, the tech, all of this that's in the background is interesting to see right now that he does have the American people, his presidency, his legislation in the forefront or whatnot, but also he's like, okay, we have Israel. Israel thinks that for all this time that all this information and that's coming forward of their lies, their deceit or whatnot, and how President Trump is basically his focus right now is on America, America's products, America's ships, and protecting that. How do you see that in other aspects or other dealings with other how could I put this? Other situations that are coming up? Do you see that Israel might try to retaliate or back down a little bit, or is Donald Trump, in your opinion, going ahead and making a right decision by going behind their backs? Or do you think he's just like you said, he's playing the game? If the world is a stage, everybody's actors or whatnot, that Israel is just like, okay, I'll play my part right now and let you do you. And at the end, we'll come together and do what we have to do.
Yeah, what's unfolding on camera versus what's going on behind the scenes, it was worked out long ago. As I told everyone here with the tariffs, just wait. If you're an investor, buy now. As I was on camera saying that this stuff was going to go basically in a positive direction. There's going to be a lot of money to be made. And sure enough, we're seeing that. There may be some more dips in the money in terms of the value of stocks or crypto, but overall the trend will start to head back up. Things were getting really bad. I mean, the quality of life, and again, it's a tiptoe. You don't want to get to where you want to go in a sprint because you risk people waking up. This is why I always say you have the Democrat, Republican stairway to hell, is that when the Democrats come in, our quality of life is going to go down. Our social decay is going to accelerate, and people are going to start getting very angry. And we saw that under the Biden administration. We saw the transgendered stuff. They pushed decent, normal people too far with that far left agenda. We saw the Gay Pride Month being introduced. Canada went one step further and said the entire summer is in honor of the homosexual communities. We saw, again, the standard of our living dropping. People are getting angry. These people don't want to govern an angry population. An angry population is a risk of social unrest, which is not something they necessarily want. They want to take us where they want to take us with us extending the hand, so to speak. So Trump is bettering our American way of life. We're seeing the prices of food items are going down. We're seeing the inflation starting to stabilize. Israel also is going to have a positive stake in this as well, because a secular Middle East will be one that would be a little bit more sympathetic to Israel. If you remove Islam from the equation, you remove Islamic Brotherhood, which is pretty much already dead anyway. If anyone here has taken a trip over there, there's no brotherhood in that part of the world unless you're part of that particular race that runs that country. There's no such thing as Islamic Brotherhood. There's no loyalty. That's already gone. And it's just going to continue to erode more and more. And you remove Islam from the equation, Palestine just becomes an afterthought. It's something that's very easy to rule over and control. And these big tech companies that have a stake in this future 2030 agenda are going to be happy with that. It's going to be safe. The Yemen situation, getting the ships through there. This is not something they want. They don't want this. And they don't want the black eye that's going to come from an aggressive action. They want this stuff to go away. And the best way to do that is to throw a bone and continue the course that they're going on. And that is a total secularization of the Middle East and a removal of Islam from pretty much, like I mentioned, any value. Islam is just something like your last name. It is no value at all. There'll be no sense of jihad, of duty, of honor, of brotherhood, of defending Muslim lands, none of that. It'll all be gone. It'll all be about making money, going on holidays, partying, having a good time, like what we're seeing here. Where the Western people have no sense of brotherhood. They have no sense of community anymore, even amongst the families. There's no loyalty. Everything is about the individual. Everything is about seeking pleasure constantly. And that's the ultimate tool, to control the masses, but you've got to let them have a good quality life. If you start taking away those things, they start to suffer. They might start distrusting the system, which is what we've seen happening in America since COVID, when they really made the lives of people take a nosedive. And people started looking and researching things that I was saying in private in 2008 were now being talked about in break rooms in my offices. I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, even these people seem to know something's going on. Now, usually these are the type of people that were completely asleep. And now they're awake. They're talking about 9/11 and things I was called insane for a decade ago or 2 decades ago. And they're talking about Israeli control and AIPAC and all these issues. And they'll continue to talk about them as long as their lives are struggling. But once those people are liberated and back to the sin again, and they have a good life, they can pay their bills, they can splurge their money, they can go out and enjoy all these things, they're going to go back to sleep. And they'll completely forget it. And the Muslim world has gone to sleep. And I don't see them waking up anytime soon. I don't see really, especially in that region, you have no dissent. You can't even speak out. You'll be executed or imprisoned, silenced immediately. The Muslims in the West, they have their own issues, obviously. So the plan is going along almost A minus. It's not A plus, but it's A to A minus at this point.
That's a very interesting point. I also wanted to bring this up to you because it just made news and it drew me in. I think I know you have like a outlook and you've heard of this, but I was just like reading not too long ago. Okay, this week we've heard about this Boeing, $400 million Boeing that Qatar is gifting Trump. This is the what you call it, the Secret Service plane, the plane he flies on. And I was looking into the technicalities, which brought me back to a story not too long ago about a gift that was given. I think it was a Russian assemblyman. I'm not too sure. I have to go back, but they basically gifted the seal that's in the back of the Oval Office. Now, what was interesting about it, it was mic'd up, it was rigged, and the Russian government was able to receive intel from about the U.S., which I guess a little bit after they discovered what was going on. And it was interesting. Let's fast forward till now. Now a gift is being given to the president. And we have the Democrats who are like, okay, this is kind of pricey. It's kind of expensive. But we do know now that it's not even, if they were proposed to give it, it would even be ready till the end of Trump's presidency. Mm-hmm. And also the amount that, it's such a pricey gift. Is it illegal? Is it something that we need? How does that work with American intel? And how does that work with the president accepting that gift? And what does it say about the security risks for the United States? If you can give us some insight, because I just found that very interesting.
Well, needless to say, that plane will be inspected and searched thoroughly. I doubt there would be issues on there. Now, this is something that's always funny with politics, is when Joe Biden was in there, all we heard was the stories. His son, this crackhead, lack of a better term, that's what he was. He was on the board of energy companies in Europe. This guy had a resume that, I mean, even if I had 5 PhDs, I wouldn't be able to achieve. We saw all the favors that were given to the Biden administration. And typically you saw the right wing talking, oh, this is horrible, this is horrible. Now that the shoe's on the other foot, you got to, it's just such a joke. I mean, because this goes on time and time again. And it's like when someone comes in, you know, the mafia or the boss into the neighborhood, you give them a gift. You want to run your business smoothly, you want to continue your operations, and you give a gift. It's a show of submission, show of respect. Because at the end of the day, those people over there, they know they put themselves in this predicament that they are at the mercy of whatever the United States tries or wants to do. I mean, our military capabilities, the secret weaponry that we have, I mean, it's second to none. I mean, we're spending more money on the military. I mean, it's not even close. If you add in all the other countries in the world, it's not even the budget of the United States. I mean, the United States could destroy those countries by doing just simply one thing. You bomb the desalination plants where they get their water from. I remember when I was in Saudi one time, I was coming back from a company event and I got lost. And GPS was not something that widespread back then like it is today. And I took a wrong turn. And out of nowhere, I was surrounded by Saudi police officers. And they were very nice. So we had a joke. I'm like, guys, look, I'm lost. And they're like, where are you going, brother? And I said, I'm trying to get back to Bahrain. And they gave me the directions. And I just said, guys, you know, they must have got me hiding something big back there. And that was the water plants, because there's not water in that part of the world. You have wells, but not sufficient enough to provide for that population. So they take their water from the Gulf and they treat it and they clean it. And that's where we get the water from. And again, that's a major disadvantage in a state of warfare. I mean, not I was just talking about just the technology differences, just the strategic differences. I mean, the United States has bases in Iraq. They have bases all over there. I mean, Israel, obviously. You know, they can hit from anywhere around the world. That's, again, why the American government has spread itself out the way that it has. I mean, there's not a part on this world that we can't mobilize to. Launch reconnaissance missions, spy missions, and assaults with airfields to refuel planes. It's anywhere. You know, we have bases in Japan, we have bases in Okinawa, we have bases in Southeast Asia, we have bases in Germany. I mean, we're covering the entire world. Our empire is spread quite wide. I mean, those people, at the end of the day, they want to play ball. They like their lifestyle, they like their power, and they want to maintain it. And they're giving a gift to the king. And it's just a little bit more upfront than a lot of the other gifts. And that's why people are making such a big deal out of it. But it's nothing that hasn't gone on, you know, before. And of course, their loyalty will be rewarded. They'll be able to keep their power, and they'll be able to continue to bleed the wealth of that area dry. And those people, I mean, they own soccer teams, they own land all over the world, vacation homes. I mean, they're living as good of a life as you possibly could imagine, way better than any of us in the material sense, from this alliance. And it was the ultimate plan, really, wasn't it? When you take over, this is a trick as old as time. When the U.S. government wanted to conquer Native American tribes, instead of having to go to war with them, they typically bribed the chiefs. You get the chiefs on your side, and then the chiefs would sell out their own people, their own people's land and rights. This is as old as history. Everyone's done this. And we're seeing it going on now. You see Arabs, Muslims selling out their own brothers for their own personal wealth. And it's unfortunate, but I mean, that's exactly what's going on here. I mean, these people have wealth. When I lived over there, it was just nothing like you could even imagine. I didn't even meet the high ups. I met a couple of Saudi princes in my circles, nice guys, tremendously wealthy, and they were lower on the rung. And these are people that were getting, you know, about 13 million to spend every 3 months as a salary. And it was listening to the stories coming from that. It was quite fascinating. But again, this is the lifestyle that has been blessed to them by these alliances. And this is why we see the agendas being pushed the way that they are. They want to maintain that.
Yes, it's very interesting. Before we proceed, if anybody has any questions or wants Brother Yusuf to address anything in particular, this now is the time. We have YouTube and all social media, all social platforms, my apologies, that you can pose your questions. Please get that in. Okay.
You got muted, sister.
Yeah, I had to clear my throat for a minute. I apologize.
Oh, no worries.
Okay, so I had another question which I wanted to ask last week,
Mhm.
but I know that you are privy to what was going on now down in Texas. There was a couple of stories that were coming up about the blue rain. And I know a lot of people was like, is that the same purple rain that Prince was talking about?
Mhm.
It was like, no, this is blue rain. A lot of people was a little bit in an uproar. They didn't know what was going on, what was happening. You know, was this an attack against us? Just like a few years ago, a few years back, when there was that mysterious smoke in New York. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Have you heard about it?
No, I have not. I'm not surprised. I'd have to see what it is. I mean, we see a lot of,
Okay.
abnormalities, if you will. The chemtrails has been something I've been telling people about for decades. You see the chemtrails more than you've ever seen before. Weather modifications that are going on where they're playing and learning how to control the weather. We see all these basically direct energy weapons. We talked about those on this platform before. All of these different technologies that we've been kept in the dark about. So I would have to look it up. I've never heard of that before. This happened this past week or last 2 weeks.
Yeah, last 2 weeks. Blue.
Mhm.
Yeah. I was kind of shocked. I was like, I have to ask Brother Yusuf,
No,
what's
I haven't actually heard of that one. The chemtrails has been a thing they've been doing for quite some time. Cloud seeding, spraying all kinds of heavy metals into our upper atmosphere, modifications of weather, a lot of things I believe that are affecting people with allergies and brain fog and the EMF aspect of this, the electromagnetic frequencies, all of those things tying into that. So yeah, I have to see what that is to comment intelligently on it, or to provide any kind of insight, but I've never heard of it.
yeah.
Okay. I have a question.
Mhm.
I have a question about this project 2025.
Mhm.
I've heard people talk about it, but they never give a clear, like, understanding what it is and what's their whole plan for Project 2025.
Well, a lot
I
of
know
stuff
they
on
have
that was actually
dismantled a
good.
lot of programs. I know they have dismantled a lot of programs, Social Security. So I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff, the Democratic establishment, the liberals ran with it because, of course, it's their worst nightmare. A lot of that stuff was about restoring American values. And this was founded, I mean, even though it was founded by Masons, but for the masses, this was founded as a Christian nation with Christian principles. And I mean, again, we as Muslims who live in the West, I mean, the conversation of Hijra, as Sheikh Ibrahim and me talked about a few weeks ago. Sheikh Ibrahim was moving over to Malaysia, I believe, and how we just don't have that right because our Muslim brothers are not really our brothers anymore, to be honest. I mean, we have no option to live in a Muslim state. Most Muslim countries are just insanely racist with their immigration policies, with their treatment of foreigners. But Christians have a right to maintain their Christian culture and to fight for what they believe is right, same way we do. Everyone has a right to pursue their own destiny. I've seen a lot of tenets of that, restoring families, incentives for childbirth. There is a lot of questionable things that have come in that, like such as criticizing Israel and taking a stance against anti-Semitism, which means you're simply criticizing. You hear the term and you think, oh, you see a person of Jewish, persuasion, you want to attack them or beat them up. Obviously, no one wants that, but that's not what they're meaning. They're meaning just simply criticizing Israel to be banned, or criticizing things that Israel is doing, or debating on the tenets of the Talmud or Judaism. So you do see some disturbing aspects in that, as well. But I don't see that happening, any of these implementations in real time. I see the country still, I mean, is morally bankrupt. I don't see any kind of return to Christian principles or values. And we as Muslims living in a Christian society is much better for us than living in an atheist society or living in the secular, debaucherous, decaying, filthy society that we live in today. So it's good for us in that standpoint. Ultimately, we belong in Islamic countries where we want to be, most of us. We just unfortunately don't have that right anymore, as all of the nations have gone the way that they have gone. And the opportunity for Hijra is just completely lost.
Yeah, that's so unfortunate because so many people are trying to make that trip for themselves, not only for themselves, but for their family, just for a better life and trying to implement Islam the best that they can, that so much is imposed on them that make it difficult for them to happen, and we look at our situation here in the United States, we only Allah knows what is coming forth. We just our eyes are open and we're seeing everything that's happening, and we're asking ourselves so many questions to prepare for the things that we don't know. Now, with your insight as far as what we're seeing in the news, the workings of the president, things that have been mandated so far, this there's another question I'm about to ask that question next. This is from Brother Ahmad. Let me just wrap this up and tie that in. But there's so much things coming in fruition that we're really trying to work on, and we're really trying to see, come to play or whatnot. And it's just really an interesting moment for all of us at this point to keep our eyes open and our ears open. Basically on this administration as what's going on. Let me go ahead and open this question. The question from Brother Emmat. Hold on one moment so I could read that for you. So, Brother Emmat has asked, what's your view on Iran getting nuclear weapons? There was news that they were saying that if Iran gets nuclear weapons, Saudi Arabia will also have it.
Well, that's the thing they've been doing for years, and the media has tried to present Islam as this, it's like kind of a cartoonish version of reality, isn't it? Where like Muslims are just like jihad, 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 die, 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 and it's like it couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, Iran has never aggressively attacked anyone. You look at there was one chart I used to show people on my phone back in 2010, and it was the wars the United States has been in where they've started it, they've initiated the attacks, and then it was wars that Iran has been in. There was 3 columns over here, and the only one that was over here was the Iraq, and Iraq was something that was basically funded by the United States, funded both sides. They were trying to get Iran and Iraq into a war with each other. And the United States armed, as the Oliver North Iran-Contra affair scandal showed, they were arming both sides and using drug money to do it. So it was off the books. Iran has never aggressively attacked anyone. If Iran gets nuclear weapons, you have Pakistan, obviously, India has them, Iran has them. Why is Iran not allowed to have them? Why is India allowed to have them, as an example? Why is Israel, who denied it for decades, allowed to have them? Why can't Iran have nuclear weapons? And then Saudi Arabia, would get them. And nuclear weapons have kind of become the ultimate, if you've got a gun pulled on me and I've got a gun pulled on you, typically both people will step back and say, okay, let's call it a draw. Let's come to the table and work out our differences. It's kind of been an equalizer in a way. So I don't have any objections, to that. And I've never seen any evidences or instances of Iran preemptively attacking anyone. Iran has become, people have this image that's not true, that Iran is this heavily religious and they've got the religious police policing the streets. Iran is majority secular at this point. You go look at the streets. I mean, you see the women, it's open. It's not like what the images were of the Ayatollah Khomeini era in the 1980s. It's not that at all. And again, it's been that cartoonish version of reality that the media has portrayed Muslims as we were just eager to die. We're eager to commit suicide. We're eager to have suicide bombing and all that other clownish narratives that we've seen. And it's nothing to worry, no cause for alarm on my end, at least. They have that right. If their neighbors in the region have them, why can't they have them? It's an unfair advantage. If they have the technology and the resources, then so be it.
Exactly. Does anybody have any further questions or insights? Or
if no one else has something, I can go on a couple of minor topics.
Yes.
Excuse me. I don't mean to be rude.
No worries. Go ahead. That's what it's for.
One of the things that I'm curious about is that you know, with Donald Trump, you know, when he went to Saudi Arabia, how they talked about the blue carpet was rolled out for him and how they've been really spoiling him since he's been over there and this and that. But for a reason, you know, you can't help but see what are the motives of this. They have motives, and we already know he has motives for wanting to be there in the first place. But especially when the $1 trillion question came up, you know, about him wanting or needing $1 trillion that he was wanted to ask them for. And I just heard that yesterday.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's like you said, I was met a guy when I was working on oil rigs back in 2012 from Russia, and his father had grown up in the communist era, then the overthrow of communism, and he was telling me the stories when they had a shop that these men would come in, they knock on the door, and they'd walk around. They say, "You got a nice shop here. You have nice business here. You want to keep it?" And they're like, "Yeah, of course you do." Well, you know, there's some certain things, you know, if you don't give us this, you know, your shop might not be standing tomorrow morning. You might not have this, you might not have that. And it was always done very gentlemanly, very professionally, if you can do such a thing in a professional sense. And it was known, you know, hey, look, you know, you've got to pay the piper. And it's extortion of leaders and these type of things have gone on since the beginning of time. The ruling conqueror comes in, he's showered with gifts, and he's provided all the provisions and the money that he requires. And in terms, you get the leadership, as I talked about earlier, they get to live a good life. They get to continue to bleed the country's resources dry for their own pockets. They get to continue to go on their vacations in Switzerland and go to their ski resorts and own their soccer clubs and have the World Cups and have all their other things, you know. It's how it always has been, you know, a tribute of sorts, if you will.
It's very interesting because we just had the Olympics held over in Qatar, and everybody was making such a big deal of the opening ceremonies, the closing ceremonies.
Well, now Saudi's got the World Cup coming up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you're seeing what's happening too is that Saudi with the soccer leagues, they are buying some of the best older players. And I'm not a big soccer fan. I grew up in America. I don't really watch soccer too much. But when I lived over there, I knew who these guys were because it was so popular in the region. But I mean, Saudi Arabia's got Ronaldo playing there now. They've rolled out the red carpet for him. They treat him like a king. They've got Neymar. They've got all these big international names are now playing in Saudi leagues. When I lived over there, Saudi leagues were like a joke. Only really locals from those areas watch those teams. Now you're seeing people in the West and in Western European countries and here in America. I've seen people wearing, you know, Nasser and Hilal jerseys because these players are on it. You're seeing Saudi Arabia is getting the boxing. They're having not just fights, they're having world title fights. They've got professional wrestling. The WWE, the biggest wrestling company in the world, is hosting shows there. They've got pay-per-views that are there. So, I mean, you're going to continue to see this as that region is being built up to be a new kind of model for the rest of the world. Europe is they're bleeding Europe dry, running it to the ground with immigration, with taxation, with lower standard of living. And at the same time, they're building up this region to kind of take its place. And we're seeing it grow. We're seeing the job opportunities. Like when I was living there, if you weren't a Muslim, no one really wanted to come to Saudi Arabia. I went there because I was Muslim. I found work there. I was generally overall happy there for the most part. But you didn't see Westerners unless they were living in compounds and they were head guys in companies. You didn't see them living in the Gulf. They lived in Dubai at the time. It was always secular. But they didn't live, you know, in Saudi Arabia like that. Only the rich who lived in their private compounds where they had alcohol and they had all those things. Now, you're seeing, from what I've been told, Westerners are everywhere, you know, in Saudi and all the small cities as well. People are dying to go in there and work and make that tax-free money. and see all the wealth that's pouring out from all this investment. And it's become the place to be. And again, what's lost in all of that, of course, is the elephant in the room, which is Islam and Islamic values. Prosperity is not always a good thing. And prosperity is something that blinds you. It's an ultimate test from Allah. You're choosing the dunya. You're choosing the little small desires of this world over what's right. And the people are eating it up, especially the Saudi women.
That is true. That is so true. And, I mean, what's being put out there so often, especially with a lot of celebrities now, the big trip. Oh, I'm going to Dubai.
Mm.
Oh, one picture I have in the bio, the next picture, the key mark, they're not Muslim. The hijab is off, the scarf covering them. And I always ask myself, how are you able to uncover, how are you able to uncover and show all of these? And we look at these esteemed Islamic countries in quotations, and we ask ourselves, is this the model that is supposed to be this standard that we have? And when you come into my country, you're supposed to dress a certain way. You can't just let this all out. But I'm noticing nowadays, it's just like, come as you are.
Mm.
And that's just it. And I mean, I've had a lot of people that are like, oh, what they equate Islam to this behavior. There is no separation. Well, if you could go to this country and you could dress this way, this attire, and behave this way, then why you over here, you have to garb up, you have to cover yourself, and you have the same freedom as the person who's coming from here going over there. Like, what example does that give to the people, over there? I mean, over here, who are looking at this example over there, who already have Islam misconstrued for its own reasons. So I'm just like, the more and more I see like the masking being unveiled in these different Islamic countries, I'm like, wow, what is there left? We already got concerts already happening in Saudi Arabia with, artists that we know here in the United States that go over there, that's being given these large amounts, these contracts that are, so grand, to just perform there, although they say only men can attend these concerts, women can't, but we're looking at it with a fine, fine eye. And we're like, what? Wait a minute. We're not supposed to have concerts in the first place.
Yeah.
We look at it, it's money, money, money. I need your money. This is a money, like you said, we're throwing out money and we need this and we want to, accept this or whatnot, which that political system is like, okay, this is what it is. It's just money, 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 money. And I'm just like, wow, at one point we wanted to move over there. But at the next point, we're like, it's not even safe for our deen, for our identity to even want to travel and make hijrah to these lands, because it's not good for us. If we're trying to escape the United States of America with all that we see on a daily basis, to travel over there and have to deal with the same type of things, then, the world is spacious, but where else would we want to go,
Yeah, and it's like really Islam is in the heart at this point. It's personal. I mean, like me, I don't even go to the masjid here. There's too much corruption in it. There's too much division in it. Too many toxic people. I practice Islam in the privacy of my own home with my family and my heart on here on this platform. Because it's like I have to detach myself from these toxic individuals, this toxic culture, these toxic people, who are coming over here, bringing nothing but racism and negativity, tribalism. All the things I witnessed when I lived over there are now coming to my own doorstep. I mean, imagine you go to a masjid in your own country and the board is controlled by a complete foreign group of people. And it's just unfortunate, but that's the reality of it. And that's how everything is when you go to the Gulf. I mean, you go to one company, it's all hired Indian. You go to the other one, it's all Filipino. You go to this one, it's all Egyptian. This one, you have the Saudi there. It's just so tribal and divisive. And then you have, as you mentioned, the morality aspect. It's like there's no morality, left, especially in the Emirates and places like that. I mean, it's just a matter of time. Saudi pledged at the World Cup they wouldn't have alcohol because it's Islam. since when are you following anything in Islam? So we're going to draw the line at alcohol, but we're not going to draw the line at half-naked women on stage. We're not going to draw the line at this haram, degenerate music that's being played over there. But alcohol, that's too far. But this over here is and that's how they do it. That's a conditioning process. It's like how they conditioned Americans for homosexuality. Bill Clinton in 1997, he said his policy on gays in the military was don't ask, don't tell. It's none of your business for me to ask, then your business for me to tell you. And then we went from George Bush, well, it's okay if you're gay, but you're not getting married. Then we went to Obama, where Obama said, okay, you can get married and you should be promoted everywhere. Then we had a little bit of a pushback where Trump said, oh, I love the gays, and I have no problem with all this, but that transgender stuff is too far. Then you had Biden came in, he took it way up to where every deviancy was accepted. A man with a beard is a woman, all that stuff came in full force. And then you had Trump come in, well, being gay is great, and you see how it works. It was that from being gay is not something we want to even know about, keep it private. So all of a sudden, okay, well, all they want is to get married. Let's give them that. Then it'll be done. So just being gay is great, but all that transgender stuff is too far. And then you watch in 8 years, the transgender stuff will be completely fine too. And they're already setting it up. There's a conservative blogger who is trans, and I've seen conservatives comment saying, well, it's okay if she's trans as long as she supports the Constitution. They're calling her she when it's clearly a he. So that's how they do it. It's like that conditioning. The concerts, all this stuff's going to get accepted. The women dressing however they want is going to get accepted. The men dressing however they want. And then sure enough, there'll come the alcohol. I mean, I'm surprised they put the alcohol in first and go that order, and then put in the other kind of filthy stuff, condition the people to being intoxicated. They'll accept things a little bit more if they're drunk. They'll abandon their dean a little bit more quicker. But yeah, that's coming. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Bread and circuses, as the Romans said, the ultimate way to control the masses. You give them bread and circuses. They will not rebel. You keep their bellies filled with hollow, nutrient-free food, and you give them entertainment.
Yeah. And I think next week, that is something that we should expound about, because that isn't a title within itself. Mm-hmm. And I have some more questions, and I know many viewers here have more questions as far as like what's being presented, the transgender. I think I know who we're talking about. And for all those who have questions and have not had those questions answered, please feel free to go ahead and keep your questions for next week. We will surely get back to answering those questions. And for all those, we know that Sister Layla's class, her live.
We got 13 minutes, so I can go on with one more thing to close.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, we got 13 minutes. I got the clock on my bottom, so that way I didn't run into Sister Layla's time. So Andrew Tate, I want to talk about this again, because Muhammad Hijab is someone who is huge, needless to say. He has got 1,000 times the audience of Layla or myself or Mr. Jamali, Sheikh Jamali. This man is massive. He has clout. And he's got clout, of course, because the elite want him to have clout. He's been helped by all the platforms. And if you go back to the genesis of the Andrew Tate debacle, and I talked about it and tied all that in with an Andrew Tate presentation in Muslim 2.0 of how all that ties into what we were discussing in these questions tonight. Well, Muhammad Hijab did it again, because he's the guy, again, you go back to the beginning, he's the one that platformed Andrew Tate and brought him into his massive Muslim audience. And Muhammad Hijab was out here, that's what I was talking about in the opening that I wanted to talk about as I was on my way home from work, was apparently he goes and does another interview where he's stating that we have to back off. We're being too harsh on Andrew Tate. That what's going to happen is Andrew Tate is going to leave Islam and he's going to become Islam's fiercest opponent. And he was like trying to make it like this guy was as fierce of an opponent as Abu Jahl or something. I mean, like he was blowing this guy up like he was Allah's worst fear, like Allah, God forbid, would have such a thing. I mean, but the way he was talking, I mean, it was just so disturbing. And he said that if we keep pushing in, all these converts are going to leave and Islam is going to be ruined. And I'm sitting here thinking, what in the world is this blasphemy that I am hearing? That Islam's destiny is tied to Andrew Tate. If you could, they talk about Islam like it's a street gang. And I'm going to get to that in a second. When you hear these guys, the Muhammad Hijabs, the Ali Dawahs, all these phony social media dawah guys, the way they refer to Islam is like it is a street gang. You have a shahada, that's an initiation, and it's about getting numbers. Oh, if we get numbers, more people, more people, more people. Do we really want, as Allah says, he who Allah wills to guide, there's none to misguide. He who Allah wills to go astray, there's none to guide. The Prophet ﷺ, as I highlighted his record a few weeks ago, he was in Mecca for 13 years. He converted about 60 people during that period of time. This is the messenger of Allah. This is the finest man that ever graced the face of this earth. And yet he had a record like that because Allah gave him quality people. He gave him the Sahaba. He gave him some of the best men that humanity has ever known. That was Allah's will. Now, later the numbers grew, obviously, and Islam would balloon off of the message, off of the Quran, and so on. But again, it was quality people that were coming. Do we care if someone converted to Islam because they watched Andrew Tate's work before? Honestly, is this someone? Now, granted, Allah could have wiped him. Allah could have guided him, wiped his sins, and make this person amazing. We saw this with Umar. May Allah be pleased with him. We've seen this with many, historical figures. But overall, it's safe to say if someone's deen is so fragile and so weak that Andrew Tate saying a few bad tweets or whatever about Islam causes them to leave and go to atheism or Christianity or Satanism or Hinduism or whatever else, we don't want that person anyway. It's not about numbers. It never has been. We've always been outnumbered. It's about the quality of the people, their deen, their taqwa. And to hear this guy speaking like this with the audience that he has is just absolutely disgusting. Andrew Tate never converted to Islam. It's pretty much it's obvious knowledge to anyone who's followed this. His actions have not changed in the slightest. There's been no change in his character, in his persona, in his personal deeds, in his sins, nothing. This was a marketing strategy that brought a ton of vulnerable Muslim men into his war room, as I highlighted in that Andrew Tate lecture a few months ago, which aligned his pockets tremendously. If he just brought in 1 to 2% of Muslim boys, he would have made 10 to 20 million a month extra, easily. This never was a man who was Islam. Now, when he came in, I didn't trust him. Now, in Islam, we are to never judge by a person's intention. I knew who he was before. I didn't buy it for a second. And it pretty much after a few weeks was pretty obvious that the conversion was a joke. But we still have, to this day, after all this man has done and been exposed doing, defending him, platforming him, and telling us that we, people like myself or Sister Laila, we're on the verge of losing our Islam if we're criticizing this man too harshly. And I just tell all the brothers and sisters here, please don't watch these guys. It's a waste of your time. As I said, they treat Islam like it's a street gang because at the end of the day, it's about numbers. It's about lining their pockets. You watch them, all they're out there to do is to make money. They're trying to feed you into their institutes, to donate to their causes, which of course, obviously we know where that money is going. In many cases, it's been exposed. We had one of these people in the UK. He has a site called Hamza's Den. I've never been a fan of this guy. I did not like his debate strategy. I felt he was really ill prepared. He made us look bad in several debates against prominent Christians. He did a video series about a month ago where he was telling all the brothers, please help me get out of my debt. Please, I can't pay my bills. I'm in debt, even though he owns his own business, even though this man's been traveling around the world and people have the records of him being in these countries, living this lavish lifestyle, and he's coming to the Ummah asking for money. So please just watch these people. I mean, it's so transparent when you know the game, you know the agenda, you know the coordinates just start lining up for you, and you're really able to spot them, like that. That's why I spotted Muhammad Hijab like that. I spotted this other gentleman I was talking about like that, because the game is so obvious. They don't even hide it, at this point anymore. They're going to continue to defend Andrew Tate or any other two-bit celebrity that comes out there and takes the shahada and then proceeds to commit every sin, zina, promoting riba, whatever it may be. Andrew Tate's done it all. and they'll defend them, and they'll continue to platform them. And you just go down the list, and you want to know Muslim followers not to trust, look at the ones that platform or defend people like Andrew Tate, and you will have your answers. It's as clear as day. Don't patronize those people. Don't give them views. Stay away from them. Their job is to lead you to Muslim 2.0, to lead you astray, and to cause division within the Western society, which is not something we want. We don't want to have division with our Western neighbors, not at all. We want to get all, we're living here. We're brought here by fate. We are here to slowly change the condition of a people the right way, with education, with good dawah, and with good character. And by having good character, we will win over people. Good people will come, not some guy in his mother's basement who fantasized about living an Andrew Tate lifestyle. And then Andrew Tate said, oh, if you're a Muslim, you can marry 4 women and you can beat them. And the guy's like, yeah, it sounds like something for me. We don't want that guy. We don't want any of the guys that Andrew Tate brought with that type of mentality, that type of message, So I wanted to add that in here at the end. This is something I heard on my way home as I was trying to catch up on some things that I'd missed, that he's old hijab back at it again, doing what he does, and that's grifting. He is a classic grifter from A to Z. If no one has anything else to add or comment on, I will close there.
I have a quick question. What was that guy's name that you just said was asking for money? He said he was in debt.
Yeah, that's Hamza's Den. He's very big in the UK. He's a British convert, gray beard. He's very big, and he's been going around. I've known who he is for quite some time, and I saw some of his debates, and he just had no business being there. He made our religion look bad, so I already kind of was skeptical of him to begin with. And then I saw this, and I'm like, oh, this is Islam's a grifting. It's something to make money. It's like, I mean, come on, dude. I mean, seriously. I was on this platform, when I paused, on the verge of taking a pay cut, which I didn't end up taking, alhamdulillah. And I was in pretty bad financial situations multiple times. I've got myself out of them, and I'm very good standing now. All praise due to Allah. Never once would I have ever came on here and asked for a cent. Would I have ever brought my personal behaviors, my personal decisions, my personal consequences, or my life? I could be homeless on the street. I wouldn't come on here and ask for $1. This guy's traveling the world, like living this luxurious lifestyle, visiting all these countries, all these speaking engagements, which he's making money from. When we look at the people like Umar Suleiman, when he's charging whatever it is these days, 25K, 30,000 for public speaking. If Sister Layla wanted him on this platform, it'd be $10,000. And then this guy's not as big as Umar Suleiman, but he's still getting money for these engagements. And he's coming on here telling, help me pay my debt. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And using like barakah and blessings for the sake of Allah. I mean, this is so, to me, really irked me, because you're taking advantage of our goodness, our kindness, our religion, our deen, our system, if you will, of helping each other, helping the people who are genuinely, in need, and it's just insufferable, Just a personal thing. I don't like to talk about things like this, but just, I mean, when I was, my story, I had talked to some people, I was going through some times with the old job I had before I got this one. And somebody misunderstood me, and they thought I was without a job and I wasn't able to pay my bills. And they tried to give me money, and I outright refused it. I said, no, I'll go out and wash cars. I'll go out and cut grass, before I'm ever going to take $1 from anyone, And that's just, again, what being a Muslim is. I mean, you're a man, especially if you're a man. You go out and you work for your family. You go out and you earn. You don't panhandle people, especially, using your religion, It's just not right. And I have no tolerance for individuals who do that. Now, it's different where you have a situation like Sister Layla or someone who's working a platform. It costs money to operate. And those people ask for donations to help keep the channel going. That's different. These people are asking for money, for masjid projects that obviously never even get going. What happened to the money? We saw Yasser Qadi. I covered him a couple of months ago, where he's trying to build that city. You're going to see so many lawsuits there of people who gave him money to get in on the project earlier, never going to get paid. I mean, we know these scams. We should know them at least by now. And yeah, That's what it is. And when those people, you start seeing them doing that on camera, you know who they are. And I would tell everybody to shy away from that.
Okay. That's very wow. We're seeing this every day. We're seeing this every day, and I'm happy that you brought that to light. So many people need to hear this.
Oh yeah, anyone who's grifting online is not suffering. I mean, these people have, you're talking 50,000, 100,000, 500,000 subscribers, and they're making enough money from YouTube to pay their bills easily. You know.